Tonight, the Premier's bold plan to solve the housing crisis hits a brick wall.
The hunt for a gang after a crime spree in Sydney's southwest.
A twin health scare for the Royals as Kate and the King undergo surgery.
2 boys charged over the murder of a popular doctor and dad.
Fresh hopes of an interest rate freeze after the latest unemployment figures.
Case closed. Aussie basketballer Josh Giddey cleared of an underage relationship.
And a superb century from Travis Head sets up a crushing victory for Australia.
Live from Sydney, 7 News with Michael Usher and Angela Cox.
Well, good evening. The Premier's been forced to admit the state will not meet its target to build 75,000 new homes this year, potentially missing out on hundreds of millions of dollars in federal money.
Ministers tonight insisting the end goal is still achievable with new reforms, but the opposition says that's unrealistic.
It was a sky-high target billed as the solution to Sydney's housing crisis. But just 18 days into the new year, an admission from the Premier.
The 75,000 figure will be very difficult to meet in the short run.
Telling the Daily Telegraph.
I'm not going to put a day or a figure on it.
New South Wales agreed to a target of 377,000 new homes by mid-2029, in exchange for a share of a $3 billion federal fund. That's an average of 75,000 homes each year for 5 years. Last year, the state reached just over half that target. But the government argues it's fixing an inherited problem.
We're starting from a low base. We're starting from a long way behind the 8 ball.
Believing recent cuts to planning red tape will begin to deliver results soon.
We'll build that pipeline of supply over the coming weeks, months and years ahead.
But the industry warns progress will be slow until
interest rates are stable, labour rates are stable, and the cost of materials is stable.
While the opposition is accusing the government of failing before reaching the starting line.
We all knew back in August that this target was unrealistic.
To avoid any more missed targets, today the government refused to reveal when New South Wales will be back on track in meeting its federal commitments, instead insisting despite the stumble, the 5-year goal is still within reach.
I'm determined to do it.
The government now in a race against the clock.
And state political reporter Taylor Aiken joins us now. Taylor, good evening. The government's revealed it was told about the asbestos contamination at Rozelle Parklands earlier than first thought.
Yes, Michael, it was advised 1 week before collections were found, the parklands were closed and an investigation was launched. Transport for New South Wales confirmed it received an email from the member of the public about asbestos on Tuesday the 2nd of January. But due to the holiday period and minimal staffing, that email was not discovered until the following Monday. That means there was a 7-day delay during which time thousands of people access the contaminated parklands. The department says once that email was read, samples of the mulch were collected and tested quickly, with the park closed by Wednesday morning. Bonded asbestos has now been found at 14 locations, with the parklands closed for at least 6 weeks while the EPA investigates. Michael?
All right, Taylor, thank you for that. Taylor Aiken there.
We have disturbing video now of a teenage gang sneaking around in the shadows overnight, trying to break into homes in southwest Sydney. They're still on the run after hitting the jackpot, taking off with a car and cash as one owner helplessly watched on.
Creeping around Catherine Field, 3 teens search for things to steal. They start at this home on Heffernan Street, triggering the front door camera. They tiptoe back, then try the side gate, where they were greeted by the pet dog.
Oh, obviously, everyone that day, we're still in shock. All right now, but yeah, it was pretty freaky knowing that someone could have been in your house.
The hunt continued on Coleman Loop around 3 a.m. The gang gained entry down a side gate of the Benjamin family home.
I just thought, I just couldn't believe it. You felt helpless, to be honest.
They took handbags, wallets and car keys. Helen caught them unlocking her husband's sedan. She yelled at them, but it was too late.
I'm looking at him and I know I can't do anything to stop her. They saw me and panicked and rushed into his car and drove off.
Police arrived within 15 minutes, but by then the teens had taken off. They drove through 2 tolls, one onto the M7 and then the M4 towards Western Sydney. Detectives are investigating tonight, confirming at least 3 homes were targeted, leaving residents shocked that their security measures weren't enough to deter these reckless thieves.
These guys don't really care. Like they saw the camera and they kept trying to get in the house.
Bill Hogan, 7 News.
A man is getting a grilling from Sutherland Police after turning up at Sutherland Hospital for treatment. They want answers after reports of a break and enter at a pharmacy in Sylvania Waters. A hole was smashed in the front glass door around 5:30 this morning. Tonight, the 28-year-old man remains in custody. The Princess of Wales is in hospital tonight after surgery, and the King will undergo a medical procedure next week. The double royal health shock is a rare moment of candour from palaces usually keen to keep medical matters private.
Both the King and his daughter-in-law Kate last seen together on Christmas Day, now both privately focusing on their health.
You never really get a health update on any member of the royal family. To get 2 of them in the space of 1 hour in one afternoon, about 2 very senior members of the royal family, was highly unusual.
The 75-year-old King has an enlarged prostate. His Majesty's condition is benign and he will attend hospital next week for a corrective procedure.
This is an operation that many people do in high volumes and the results are very good. So I don't think we should be unduly concerned. But of course, generally it is of course concerning that our King is having to have something done.
The Princess of Wales' condition potentially more serious, admitted to this London private hospital on Tuesday, undergoing planned abdominal surgery described as successful.
At this stage, the palace won't say exactly why the princess required surgery, choosing to keep her diagnosis private. But she is likely to stay in hospital for up to 2 weeks. All her engagements expected to be cancelled until after Easter.
Royal sources assuring her condition is not cancer-related. She'll continue her recovery at home in Windsor. Prince William likely to cut back on royal duties too to support his wife and their children.
We'll just have to wait and see how it unfolds, but clearly she is in good hands at where she is, and she'll be looked after. But I think it's going to be a long period of recuperation, and she'll have to spend time out of the public eye.
The health concerns mean a mooted tour of Italy by the Prince and Princess of Wales is now off, as are a number of engagements and meetings for the King over the next week or so. Buckingham Palace says His Majesty was keen to share news of his medical procedure to encourage men who experience symptoms to get their prostate checked. Michael.
Hugh Whitfield at Buckingham Palace, thank you.
2 boys, both just 16, have been charged with the murder of young Dr Ashley Gordon in Melbourne last weekend. His older sister telling 7 News the hurt will never end for their family and she wishes there was a death penalty.
He was the young doctor who had his life stolen and his family want the killers to pay.
I want them to hurt forever, because we will hurt forever.
33-year-old Dr Ash Gordon was allegedly murdered after chasing 2 thieves who'd broken into his house on Saturday, stealing laptops and shoes. His sister Natalie in disbelief when told today the police had arrested 2 youths, just 16 years old.
I felt anger, a whole new wave of sadness. My kids wouldn't even be out at that time, even if they were 16. They wouldn't even be out at that time.
It happened in Melbourne's East, Doncaster. Dr Gordon's body found 600 metres from his Sargent Street home.
Our family will never ever repair itself from this, and I just want them to hurt all the time.
The pair now charged with murder, aggravated burglary, theft.
The boys appeared in Children's Court this morning, the prosecutor revealing that one had refused to allow a parent to attend his police interview. The other's parent is yet to be found.
The victim's family so angry with the loss, they wish there was a death sentence.
I'm not going to lie, yeah. Why do they get to keep living?
The pair has been remanded in custody to appear again next month. Chris Reason, 7 News.
Police are on the hunt for a firebug after a truck burst into flames in Western Sydney. The Volvo prime mover caught fire in Wayland near Mount Druitt last night. The blaze is being treated as an act of malicious damage. Energy workers were called in to check whether overhead power lines were affected. The Workplace Relations Minister has held crisis talks with both sides in the nation's port dispute, but says he will not intervene. Tony Burke wants them to sort it out themselves, while making it quite clear he has little time for the Dubai-based operator.
He met with the union and DP World, and this was the takeaway.
I have to say, I have trouble believing that DP World has the interests of Australian consumers at heart.
The minister denouncing the port operator.
If they had invested as much into negotiating as they have into their media campaign, they may already have an agreement.
But going no further.
I've made clear to both groups today that I have no intention of intervening. I expect the parties to be at the table, to be negotiating and to be resolving this.
Like the containers on the docks, this industrial dispute and everyone caught in it remain in limbo.
This is a key national emergency. They need to stop listening to bureaucrats and they need to start listening to business.
We've got both importers and exporters suffering from this.
Reportedly, more than 48,000 containers have been delayed since the action began.
Among the items stuck in transit and of most concern to retailers, perishable foods, fresh produce, pharmaceuticals and other time-critical goods, including back-to-school merchandise.
We'll start seeing businesses starting to pass on more and more of the costs that they're bearing.
There are other ways in which this dispute could be resolved, including through the Fair Work Commission, and that's where I expect to see the dispute taking its next steps.
Tom Hartley, 7 News.
There's relief for mortgage holders, with a leading economist predicting zero chance of an interest rate hike next month. That follows new jobs figures showing unemployment steady at 3.9%. But worryingly, tens of thousands of Australians lost their jobs.
For workers across Australia, in 2024, making ends meet is tough.
As a regular minimum wage worker, it's a little bit thin at the moment, but let's see, this time shall pass.
Even tougher for the 65,000 people who left full-time work last month.
This is clearly an economy slowing under the weight of higher interest rates.
Pay, one of the biggest problems.
Massive issue. We can't pay them for what they think they might be worth.
The jobless rate is steady at 3.9%. After a peak of 7.6% during COVID, unemployment has stayed under 4% since February 2022.
There is, though, underlying a slowing of employment growth.
From November to December, the number of hours worked fell by 10 million.
Of course, if you work fewer hours, you get lesser income. No wonder people are feeling the squeeze.
Rising prices, rising interest rates and rising taxes have all had a very big impact.
The Prime Minister is promising better times ahead.
Downward pressure on inflation, whilst as well supporting employment.
Economists believe the slowing economy virtually rules out any chance of a rate rise when the Reserve Bank meets next month.
It is now highly unlikely that rates go up.
We don't expect the bank to put rates up anytime soon.
Isabel Mullen, 7 News.
And the Prime Minister is pushing back against China's claims that a Japanese warship fired the sonar pulse which injured 2 Australian Navy divers. China's ambassador to Australia has accused our government of falsely blaming his country.
The Chinese ambassador advocates for his country. That's his job. What I would say about that incident is we stand by the assessments of the ADF.
I'm not swayed by the comments. It was wrong. It shouldn't have occurred.
Japan's former ambassador to Australia has called the comments by China a cheap shot.
Australian basketballer Josh Giddey has been cleared by police in America, where he's playing in the NBA. They'd been investigating claims Giddey had an illegal relationship with an underage girl, but the case is now closed.
They're images that threaten to derail a glittering NBA career that had only just begun.
We're at the front of the club, me and my girl, about to head back to mine.
Josh Giddey and his female companion thrust into an online storm and a police investigation amid claims the Aussie gun was embroiled in an inappropriate relationship with a minor.
Yeah, I mean, I understand the question, obviously, but there's no further comment right now.
That was the 21-year-old late last year. Today, police say it's case closed. We have no corroborating information related to criminal activity regarding Mr. Giddey. Investigators told 7 News it's over.
From Australia, number 3,
The age of consent in Oklahoma, where Giddy plays for the Thunder, is 16. It's understood the Australian boomer and the girl in question had met at a nightclub, leading the NBA star to assume she was over 18.
Giddy's going to bank it in.
His NBA club stood by their star, even if the game's fans at times had other ideas.
One of the best shot blockers in the NBA.
Still just a rookie, Australians' $10 million man, no doubt now hoping to put this chapter behind him.
We're at the front of the club, me and my girl, about to head back to mine.
In the United States, Miley Hogan, 7 News.
Police have arrested a man over alleged firearm offences in Sydney's northwest. Officers raided a Macquarie Park unit shortly before 7 this morning, seizing several items. They believe the property was being used for activities linked to outlaw motorbike gangs. The 35-year-old was taken to Ryde Police Station for questioning.
Well, it's official. Sydney has gone troppo. High humidity and warm sea temperatures means the harbour city is experiencing weather similar to Cairns or Singapore. And experts are warning they're the perfect breeding conditions for mosquitoes.
Sydney was lashed by more wild weather overnight, trees down and around 50 millimetres of rain across the suburbs. As the sun rose, the mugginess set in.
I'm sweating.
I'm from the UK, so this is crazy.
More reason to sweat after another hot night, similar to the tropics.
We're definitely getting a tropical plunge.
And the reason? Sea temperatures up to 3 degrees above average and easterly winds.
That's dragged all that extra moisture sitting over the ocean onto and into eastern Australia.
The Bureau insists its declaration of an El Niño is correct.
Yes, we are in an El Niño pattern, but it doesn't always mean we're going to have hot and dry conditions.
And there are predictions of little relief for the rest of summer.
We've still got probably another 6 weeks of warm, humid weather and humid nights.
Heavy rainfall across Sydney and high tides are combining to create the perfect breeding conditions for mosquitoes. And they're more than just annoying, with health authorities concerned about the diseases that can be spread by the blood-sucking insects.
Ross River virus is the most common mosquito-borne pathogen that infects people in Australia. You shouldn't be complacent.
Angelique Opie, 7 News.
Well, for more weather details, Angie Asimus is here. And Angie, the rain eased at least today.
Yeah, that's something, Ange. After those widespread falls of 50 millimetres overnight, it was back to blue skies today. And under the sunshine, it was a warm one. We reached a top of 32 degrees in our west. 30 was the top in the CBD. The other benefit to the clear skies, it does allow more cooling overnight, so it's going to be more manageable this evening. Right now, the temperature has dropped to 25.7 degrees in the CBD, and an approaching southwesterly change will help with that humidity too. Although, as we wait for that, it's still at 82%. Now, most of the severe weather is happening further north tonight, so we've got warnings for heavy rainfall associated with some storms impacting this region in yellow. As for Sydney, well, it is clear skies ahead for now. Good news for the weekend. Those details coming up a little bit later. Angela and Michael.
All right, look forward to that, Angie. Thank you for that. Well, where's Batman when you really need him? Coming up, frightening scenes as a man in a clown mask holds up a service station.
The building commissioner hits back at claims a Sydney apartment block is about to collapse.
A judge threatens to throw Donald Trump out of court if he can't control himself.
Later, a blow for Apple. The tech giant barred from selling its watches in the US.
And a vortex of ice and wind, skiers mesmerised by a rare snownado.
Thank you for watching 7 News. An arrest warrant's been issued for a hedge fund manager convicted of over $24 million in dodgy investments. Ken Grace ran the Gold Sky Ponzi scheme, promising returns of 20%, but spending the money on himself. The former car dealer failed to front for today's sentencing at Sydney's Downing Centre Court. His lawyers say they don't know where he is and can't contact him.
The state's construction watchdog has moved to reassure residents at a Macquarie Park apartment block it's not in danger of collapsing. But occupants complain they've been left in the dark, saying the first they heard of the building's structural problems was from the media.
This Macquarie Park address today home to anxiety.
It was a bit of a shock.
and anger. Residents at NBH were just finding out about serious defects found months ago.
In the car park, there was a chunk of cement that's obviously fallen off the roof. The reinforcement's starting to rust. I'm not a structural engineer. I don't know if that's bad or good, but I just think it doesn't look good.
Damage to the concrete slab in the basement didn't look good to building inspectors, slapping Chinese-backed developers Greenland with an order to fix it.
I want the public to understand there's no imminent risk to this building and the safety of the people in it.
Weeks after the problems were discovered here, the Premier stood in front, calling for more developments like it.
This is an example of the Building Commissioner doing exactly what we set it up to do.
The Building Commission says it's likely to be costly, but the developer now has a strict time frame to deal with the defects, to scan the slab, come up with a plan to fix it, and then have the work done by August. In a statement, Greenland said it remains fully committed to working closely with the Commission to satisfactorily resolve the situation. In the last 12 months, the Commission has hit the state's developers with more than 60 work rectification orders, with 8 in the last week.
There will be many more to come. That message is starting to get through to developers now. Stop making the shoddy decisions that you used to once make.
Paul Caddack, 7 News.
An armed robber is on the run after holding up a Brisbane service station at gunpoint wearing a quite scary clown mask. Security cameras captured him threatening a staff member with the weapon before lunging over the counter to rip cash from the till. He then jumped a fence and took off. The employee was shaken but not injured.
Donald Trump was in full attack mode, berating the judge on day 2 of his defamation trial in New York. He's being sued by a woman he called a whack job after a civil court found he sexually assaulted her.
Staring down a massive multi-million-dollar defamation payout, Donald Trump today wasn't giving an inch.
I frankly am the one that suffered damages. I should be given money, given damages.
Swapping the campaign trail for the courtroom again as his accuser, former journalist E. Jean Carroll, took the stand. "I'm here because I was assaulted by Donald Trump," she said. "He said it never happened, he lied, and he shattered my reputation."
I have no idea who the hell. She's a whack job.
It was that primetime comment last year, hours after a court ruled Trump was liable for sexually assaulting Carroll, that set off a tidal wave of online abuse and threats. "I thought I was going to get shot," Carroll told the court. It's testimony Trump repeatedly interrupted today. The judge threatening at one point to kick him out. "You just can't control yourself," Judge Kaplan declared. Trump firing back. "You can't either."
He's a nasty judge. He's a Trump-hating guy, and it's obvious to everybody in the court.
It's a line well received here. Trump returning to New Hampshire tonight and to his position as Republican Party frontrunner.
God bless you, New Hampshire. Thank you.
In the United States, David Woywood, 7 News.
2 Malaysian men have pleaded guilty to conspiracy over the 2002 Bali bombings. Mohammed bin Lep and Mohammed bin Amin appeared at a military court at Guantanamo Bay over their involvement in the bombings, which killed more than 200 people, including 88 Australians. They'd been facing additional charges over a 2003 attack in Jakarta, which have now been dropped. The men will be sentenced next week.
Skiers in the US have been treated to a rare sight as they waited in line for the chairlift. Strong winds whipping up a snow tornado at this Colorado resort. The lingering Arctic blast has turned roads into ice rinks in some parts of the country. One driver narrowly avoided disaster when he lost control on an icy road in Texas and ended up facing back the way he came. Snowboarders have been taking full advantage of the conditions, carving up a storm.
Well, lucky to be alive. Up next, a barbecue explosion sends a man to hospital and almost destroys his home.
The mistake that landed Arnold Schwarzenegger in hot water at an airport.
Monarch and author King Frederick's new book hits the shelves.
And in sport, live from Adelaide Oval, the Bendemeer Bullet leaves the Windies barely hanging on in the first test.
In breaking news, more asbestos has been discovered at Rozelle Parklands. It's just been revealed 2 more samples of mulch have tested positive for contamination, taking the total number to 17. Contractor John Holland is currently working on a draft remediation plan for the site. A Northern Beaches man is lucky to be alive after trying to light a barbecue that had a leaking gas connection. The explosion left him in hospital with flash burns and sparked a fire on the balcony of his Coleroy apartment block.
These are the sights and sounds of a barbecue gone terribly wrong. The sun had set on Coleroy Beach last night when dinner plans went up in flames.
From our bedroom, it sounded like the building had blown up, the reverberation, and we heard someone shout, "Help me."
It was a man who'd suffered serious burns. He lit the barbie despite a hissing sound coming from a new gas bottle.
That is an indication that there is something wrong. Turn the gas off straight away.
When he pushed the ignition button, the explosion just happened.
The man is spending his 30th birthday today at Royal North Shore Hospital with burns to his face, chest and wrist, but he is lucky.
Extremely lucky. This could have been a lot worse.
Another resident who ran into the unit with a small fire extinguisher suffered smoke inhalation. He was taken to hospital as a precaution.
With the explosion occurring on the bottom of the 7-storey block, it could have also been much worse for the 50 residents and their Ocean View apartments. Thankfully, fire crews arrived within 5 minutes.
The main thing is that everyone got out and no one was hurt. We're really lucky that it's not worse than that.
22 firefighters stopped the flames from spreading beyond the balcony. Tom Saker, 7 News.
The Foreign Minister has met Palestinian leaders in the West Bank during her sensitive tour to the Middle East. Penny Wong declared Hamas a terrorist organisation that should have no power in Gaza.
Crossing into the West Bank, it takes 2 cars and a diplomatic tightrope.
Hello, welcome.
7 News joined Penny Wong's convoy for meetings with the Palestinian Authority's Prime Minister. A day after pledging millions in aid for Gazans displaced by the war, the Australian flag was flown at government offices in Ramallah.
It's been 10 years since Penny Wong was last in the West Bank, now here as Foreign Minister at a time of frayed tensions. Every meeting is scrutinised, every word counts.
I expressed to the Prime Minister Australia's support for a two-state solution in which Israelis and Palestinians can live in peace and dignity and security.
It's been more than 100 days since Hamas attacked Israel and kidnapped more than 200 people, sparking a bloody retaliation. Still, Hamas is firing rockets. This is the border town of Netivot, just hours before Senator Wong arrived in Israel.
Is it your view in calling for a ceasefire that peace can be achieved through diplomatic negotiations with a terror organisation?
We believe that Hamas has no place in the future governance of Gaza. We believe that Hamas is a terrorist organisation which have engaged in atrocities and terrorist acts.
Stopping the launches before they happened, still a daily battle. In Jerusalem, Ashley Mullaney, 7 News.
Police are appealing to the public to help solve a suspicious death in the city last week. A man's body was found inside a hotel room on York Street, and tonight detectives have released new security pictures as they look for leads.
Checking into the York Hotel with his partner, but within days this man would be found dead in his room as detectives try to track down a mystery man seen leaving in the hours before the grim discovery last Friday.
Police and ambulance arrived and rendered assistance. However, unfortunately, the body of a 43-year-old male was located deceased.
The scene presented as an apparent overdose, but detectives haven't ruled out foul play.
We located drug paraphernalia and other substances.
The victim had been staying here with his girlfriend and another man who phoned for help.
Those two were questioned by police here and released without charge, but homicide detectives have since been called in, investigating whether the man was administered with a drug that led to his death.
Wanting help to identify this man, he's Caucasian, in his 40s and clean-shaven, and was wearing sunglasses and dark clothing, driving off in a white ute with a tabletop tray.
We believe that he may have attended the unit or the level of the unit, and we were wanting to speak to him.
Andrew Denny, 7 News.
Hollywood action hero Arnold Schwarzenegger has been detained at an airport in Germany for failing to declare an expensive watch. The watch is worth around $43,000 and it's understood Arnie had been planning to auction it off for his climate crisis charity. Customs officers found it while searching his luggage. He's been fined $58,000 for the offence.
The new King of Denmark, Frederick X, has published a book just days into his reign called The King's Word. It's expected to become a bestseller, offering insights into royal life, including his relationship with Mary. King Frederick says he's learned a lot from his wife, who, from time to time, he says reminds him he's not always right just because he's the man of the house.
Good work, Mary. A win for the widow of an Australian Special Forces veteran facing deportation still to come. The stroke of luck that could allow her to stay in the country.
A glass of juice in the morning might be doing kids more harm than good. New research next.
The eye-watering sum up for grabs in tonight's Powerball.
And soon in sport, live from Adelaide Oval, the Aussie battler matching it with one of the world's best at the Australian Open.
Parents are being urged to limit the amount of fruit juice their children drink. Research by American paediatricians found giving kids a glass full of full-strength juice each day can increase their weight and body mass index. That's because that type of juice contains a lot of natural sugar. Nutritionists recommend watering down juice for children or giving them water-flavoured with slices of fruit.
The widow of an Australian war veteran has won a bitter battle to stay living here. She's an American citizen and was facing deportation after his tragic death. The Immigration Department stepped in today and now she can fulfil her husband's wish to raise their son in Australia.
Christy Chilcott married her husband Drew 10 years ago when he was a Navy clearance diver. Drew enlisted a day after the September 11 attacks and had a 20-year military career which included high-risk missions. That service and dedication wasn't enough for immigration, which ordered his widow to leave Australia by July.
Unfortunately, they didn't want to do anything about it.
Drew and Christy were living in the United States and planning to return to Australia when he was killed in a motorbike crash.
We love the countryside of it. We love the environment of bringing up a family.
While Christy is a US citizen, their 5-year-old son Jack is Australian, but she was still refused permission to stay. The hard line adopted by immigration threatened to embarrass Defence, which is trying to reinforce its commitment to veterans and their families.
I'm aware of the reporting about that matter and have engaged with the Minister for Immigration on that issue, but it's a matter for him to resolve.
And just like that, it was fixed. Immigration officials were in touch with Christy within hours of her plight becoming public, requesting some extra documents and telling her she can stay and raise her child in Australia.
I'm still kind of not in belief of it, to be honest.
Christy should get final approval in a few weeks. Jeff Parry, 7 News.
Our share market continued a 5-day losing streak with new data out of the UK and the US, pouring more cold water on hopes of imminent rate cuts. The ASX 200 closing down 47 points. The biggest losses in materials, energy and real estate stocks. The Aussie dollar is buying less than 66 US cents. Iron ore prices dropped. And Australians are becoming increasingly worried about retirement. A new survey revealing only 20% are confident they'll have enough money to self-fund their retirement, down from 25%. 50% say they're worried they won't have enough money to stop working when they plan to, with 14% worried they'll never be able to retire.
And here are some pretty big numbers also. One lucky Australian could find themselves $100 million richer tonight. The Powerball jackpot has skyrocketed with no Division 1 winners in the last 4 draws. So if one person snatches it, they'd be the second richest individual lottery winner in the country's history. Up to half of all Australian adults are predicted to have a ticket in tonight's draw, us included. Well, Apple may have overtaken Samsung as the top smartphone seller, but now the tech giant's facing a major legal hurdle. Coming up, why a court has ruled it cannot sell its smartwatches in the US. Don't miss that story shortly here on 7 News. But first, let's go to Adelaide now. And Mel's back with sport. Mel, good evening to you. Australia in complete control.
Hello to you both, Michael. After what we saw, it's a little bit disappointing. There were worries the West Indies wouldn't bat out the day here, but it is looking grim for the tourists. Coming up, Travis Head's brilliance and Josh Hazlewood's barrage put Australia on the verge of victory in the first test. And arguing with fans and a special relationship with a tree. Just a day in the life of Novak Djokovic.
Tomorrow on Sunrise, new year, new skin, the affordable face mask that's winding back the clock. What you need to know before trying it out at home.
Plus, the Aussie kids refusing to go back to school. A former principal's new advice to help struggling families. See you in the morning, Sydney.
Welcome back to Adelaide Oval, where local hero Travis Head and Josh Hazlewood have Australia on track for victory in the first test against the West Indies. The hosts survived a slump to total 283 today, thanks to Head's quickfire ton. Hazlewood then tore through the tourist top order, still 22 runs away from making Australia bat again.
Former Aussie opener Greg Blewett rang in day 2. Australia's new number 4, alarm bells.
Edge and taken!
Windies day 1 hero Shamar Joseph getting Cam Green for 14. On 45, Usman Khawaja, first test wicket for a pumped Justin Greaves. Mitch Marsh 5, grabbed by Short Gully. Australia 5 for 129. Alex Carey only 15. Game on. Pulling things back together, local hero Travis Head, the left-hander leading Australia past the Windies 188 to his 7th Test century.
The sweet feeling of hometown 100.
Having fun peppering the stands, Head well held on the boundary for 119, wife Jessica leading a standing ovation. Joseph claiming a 5-wicket haul in his first test. Trailing by 95, the tourists soon in disarray. Josh Hazlewood tearing through the Windies top order. Head sharp as at bat pad. 4 for 19 the collapse. Hazlewood's figures 4 for 2. Australia's tall blonde all-rounder
Out! Cameron Green!
in on the act. Nathan Lyon the last wicket. West Indies 6 for 73. Andrew McKinlay, 7 News.
Channel 7 cricket commentator Ian Bishop joins me now. Bish, we were saying the game is in the balance, and that was at the lunch break, but things changed dramatically, didn't they?
It changed through the quality of Travis Head's knock. His aggression, his counter-punching. It just reestablishes the quality that we've seen from him the last couple of years.
Now, do we want to talk a little bit more, because we certainly should, about a certain West Indian debutant who's been a superstar so far?
Shamar Joseph has been outstanding. What I really like, Mel, about what he did with the ball is the consistency and the discipline of his good length bowling. He bowled in his first test match like someone who was in the game for many more years than he actually is at 24. So that is very promising for the West Indies going forward.
A big positive, and we're definitely going to day 3. Thanks, Bish.
Thanks for having me.
Well, playing the Brisbane Heat in tomorrow night's qualifier on the Gold Coast will be like a home away from home for the Sixers. They won all 4 matches while based there during the COVID-affected season 3 years ago when they won the final.
The wicket tended to play probably a little bit like the SCG at times does. There's often a little bit in it, and that sort of tends to suit the way we played.
The Thunder's season ended in a damp squib last night. Their final match against the Renegades rained out. Unfortunately, the winner of tomorrow's sold-out qualifier goes straight through to the final. It's live right here on 7. The number of locals is starting to dwindle at the Australian Open, but they aren't going down without a fight. Novak Djokovic found himself feuding with fans in a challenging win over Alexei Popyrin. Max Purcell pushed 11-seed Casper Ruud all the way today.
Australia's number 2 playing like a world number 1. Max Purcell throwing everything at 11th seed Casper Ruud.
He's done it right on the line.
Twice fighting back from a set down, 3rd round at a Grand Slam, a step too far, out in a 5th set tiebreak.
He's taken his tennis to a new level the past years, and it's been fun to watch.
A big scare for Iga Swiatek, the world number 1 down 4-1 in the 3rd to Danielle Collins, somehow pulling off the win. Novak Djokovic under attack from locals on court.
That's the wow moment he was looking for.
And off it, tested by Alexei Popyrin, taking a set, hyping up his home crowd a bit too much.
He's having some issues with the crowd.
Djokovic heckled by a fan, returning serve.
I was tolerating it from most of the match, but and at one point I had enough, and I asked him whether he wants to come down and tell it to my face. If you're such a tough man, tough guy, come down and tell it to my face, and let's have a discussion about it.
Other Aussies rushing to his defence.
Let's do WWE in the crowd. I'll jump in for you. I'll go first. I'll get that guy out of here. I'll do it for you, bro. I got your back 100%. I'd love that. Get a popcorn and watch that.
Struggling with illness, still enough to win in 4 sets. Pumped up, but ready to bond with an old friend in the Royal Botanic Gardens.
There's one particular tree that I've been having a special relationship with, so to say, in the last 15 years. I got connected with that tree. I just liked it, and I liked its roots and the trunk and branches.
James Manton, 7 News.
Shane Flanagan will give you some. Kyle first shot at a spot in the halves alongside Ben Hunt at the Dragons. As the Red V welcomed a new sponsor, their new coach confirmed the former Bulldog will start at 6, a move endorsed by Hunt.
A guy that can play, halfback or 5'8", he can step up and take a bit more of a leadership role.
How they work together has been what I thought it could be.
The Dragons face the Titans in round 1. Michael and Ange, good luck to the Socceroos in the Asian Cup tonight. Yeah. The Tour Down Under continues tomorrow right here on the screens of 7. Novak Djokovic and the Tree, just to recap.
I still want to know more about that.
Yeah, that's a whole other story. We'll have more tomorrow, but most importantly, we're going to day 3.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Indeed.
Thanks, Mel.
Thanks.
The global smartphone war has gone nuclear, with Samsung unveiling its latest weapon, which includes artificial intelligence for the first time.
And Apple has suffered a serious blow with a court in America banning the sale of its latest watches.
It's Apple's most advanced watch, but it's running on borrowed time and possibly stolen technology. Apple's Series 9 and Ultra 2 models boast a blood oxygen feature, but according to biotech company Massimo, it's been copied from their patented technology.
It's unusual to see Apple put into this position.
It's now been banned from stores across the US.
To get around this ban, Apple is expected to remove the blood oxygen feature from its watches. But don't worry, devices sold here in Australia and elsewhere outside the US aren't expected to be impacted.
As Apple strips its shelves, its biggest competitor is stacking them. Samsung entering the era of AI, launching its latest smartphone series, the Galaxy S24, with real-time voice translations and circle-to-search technology.
All the features are amazing, yeah.
It's more advanced. Samsung's move here is going to attract, I think, a lot of iPhone users away from Apple.
But the top tech doesn't come cheap. The new Samsung starts at $1,400, and no sign of Apple winding back the price of its timepieces either. Lucy McLeod, 7 News.
Now, Angie's back with the forecast. Angie, glorious sunshine. How long is it going to last?
Oh, Angie, well, after a soggy week, skies are looking clear as we head into the weekend. All the details are coming up next.
Tonight's 7 News headlines. The Premier has admitted the state will fall short of its target to build 75,000 new homes.
Police are on the hunt for a group of teenagers who stole a car and cash during an early morning crime spree.
And Australia's on track for victory in the first test against the West Indies.
Now, here's Angie with Sydney's weather. Angie.
Thank you very much, Ange. That wet weather cleared around Sydney today, but humidity remained sky high. It hovered between 95 and 100% from 8:30 to 9:30 this morning and didn't dip below 70% all day. We reached a top of 30 degrees in the CBD this afternoon, but at times it felt closer to 34 due to all of that moisture and very light winds. Across the suburbs, Richmond climbed to 33 for a maximum, 32 at Penrith, 31 for Camden. Mostly dry too after gauges reset at 9 a.m. A trough is moving into northeastern New South Wales tonight, bringing with it humid tropical air. Thunderstorms are forming around that system this evening with warnings in place. We're also monitoring a tropical low on the monsoon trough line, which could develop into a cyclone early next week. Tonight, a low down past Tasmania is moving east, and that is going to help push a southwesterly change up the coast tonight. That is going to bring a drier air mass tomorrow, which should be very welcome for those humidity levels. That change is not going to track as far north as Brisbane tomorrow. It's going to be humid once again with a top of 33. Canberra sunny and warm, 27. Showers remain for both Hobart and into Melbourne. Adelaide steamy, 29. Fine and 28 for Perth. Statewide isolated and showers contract away to the far northeast tomorrow, possibly severe up near the border, and it is looking fine and mostly sunny elsewhere, with those southeast to southwesterly winds on the coast helping to bring down humidity. A top of 25 degrees on the way at Bateman's Bay, and Newcastle on track for 29. Across the suburbs, it will be a cooler night thanks to that southerly change headed our way. Lows could dip down into the teens. Tops, though, warm again. 31 degrees expected at Penrith, 28 on the beach at Manly, 27 for Terry Hills. On the water, southwesterly winds, 20 knots at first, then shifting to the southeast on a 1.5 metre swell. Back in the CBD, a low of 18 degrees on the way tonight, more manageable. A top of 28, and humidity will pick up again once those drier southwesterly winds turn southeasterly from about the middle of the day, dragging in that moisture from the ocean once again. Ahead, we're on track for a fine warm weekend. Sunday especially, 32 degrees in the CBD, climbing to 37 in our west. Apart from a couple of passing showers for Monday and Tuesday, it's otherwise a clear week ahead. A nice break from those rain clouds, Angela and Michael.
Looks amazing. Good beach weather. Water temperature is still 23.
Beautiful.
Lovely. Thank you, Angie. That is 7 News for this Thursday. We'll have updates for you throughout the evening.
Sunrise starts from 5:30 tomorrow from all the 7 News team. Thanks so much for your company. Hope you have a great night.
Good night.
Stream 7 News anytime, live and on demand on 7plus. And with 7news.com.au, you'll know the news now.